New York City, in the summer of 1977, was a city living in pure terror. The streets that never sleep had gone quiet after dark. Couples who once walked freely through neighborhoods now locked themselves inside. Young women cut their hair or dyed it different colors because rumors spread that the killer preferred brunettes. Nightclubs emptied early. Parks became ghost towns. Restaurants lost business as families refused to sit near windows. An entire metropolitan area of 8 million people had been paralyzed by one man hiding somewhere in the darkness with a gun. Nobody knew his face. Nobody knew his name. He targeted couples sitting in parked cars late at night. He approached without warning, fired multiple shots through windows, and disappeared back into the shadows before anyone could react. And then came the letters. Handwritten notes sent directly to police detectives and newspaper journalists, filled with strange language, bizarre references, and taunting messages suggesting the killer was not only unafraid of being caught, but was actually enjoying the attention. He signed one letter with a name that would burn itself permanently into American criminal history. Son of Sam, his real name was David Berkowitz. And before New York City ever heard that name, he was just a quiet, overweight young man living alone in a small apartment in Yonkers, working an ordinary job, drawing almost no attention from anyone around him. David Richard Berkowitz was born on June 10, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. His birth mother was unmarried and felt unable to raise a child alone. Within days of his birth, she placed him for adoption. A hardware store owner named Nathan Berkowitz and his wife Pearl took the infant home and raised him as their own. Beneath the surface, emotional difficulties appeared early and never fully disappeared. His adoptive mother Pearl died from cancer when David was 14 years old. The loss devastated him in ways he never fully processed. His father eventually remarried and moved to Florida, leaving a teenage David feeling increasingly alone and emotionally abandoned. He joined the United States Army after high school and served for 3 years. After his discharge, he returned to New York and began drifting between apartments and low-paying jobs, while the internal world inside his mind grew steadily darker and more disturbed. In 1975, Berkowitz tracked down his biological mother for the first time. The reunion did not bring the healing he hoped for. Instead, discovering the circumstances of his birth seemed to deepen existing psychological wounds rather than close them. What happened next inside? His small apartment in Yonkers belongs to one of the strangest chapters in American criminal history. Berkowitz later told investigators that voices began speaking to him through the walls. Demonic presences, he claimed, communicated through howling neighborhood dogs ordering him to hunt and kill. He became specifically fixated on a black Labrador owned by a neighbor named Sam Carr. Berkowitz believed the dog was possessed by an ancient demon channeling murderous commands directly into his mind night after night. He later claimed he attempted to shoot the dog to silence the voices. The attempt failed. The commands, he insisted, only grew louder and more demanding. Whether these claims represented genuine psychotic delusion or deliberate manipulation of the legal system has been debated by psychiatrists and criminologists for decades. What is not debated is what those alleged voices eventually led him to do. The first shooting attack came on July 29, 1976, in the Bronx. 2 young women were sitting in a parked car outside an apartment building after returning from a night out. Berkowitz approached the vehicle on foot, crouched beside the passenger door, and opened fire without warning. Donna Lauria died at the scene. Jody Valenti survived with a serious leg wound. Investigators had no suspect, no motive, no clear picture of what they were dealing with. More attacks followed over the next several months. Each one shared the same terrifying pattern. Couples or young women in parked cars targeted late at night in residential neighborhoods across the Bronx and Queens. The shooter approached on foot, fired multiple rounds at close range, and escaped before police arrived. By early 1977, investigators began connecting the shootings through ballistic evidence linking them to the same .44 caliber weapon. A task force formed specifically to hunt what newspapers were calling the .44 caliber killer. Then came the letters. After a murder in January 1977, Berkowitz left a handwritten letter at the scene of another attack addressed directly to an NYPD captain. The letter was rambling, strange, and deeply unsettling. It made references to demons, darkness, and a compulsion to kill that the writer described as impossible to resist. It was signed Son of Sam. A second letter arrived weeks later, sent directly to newspaper columnist Jimmy Breslin of the New York Daily News. The letter was filled with dark, taunting language and what appeared to be genuine pleasure at the attention the case was receiving. The Daily News printed it. New York exploded. The effect on daily life across the city was immediate and profound. Young women began altering their appearance out of genuine fear. Hairdressers reported dramatic increases in customers, requesting color changes because the Son of Sam was believed to prefer young women with long dark hair. Couples stopped parking in residential neighborhoods at night. The NYPD assembled one of the largest task forces in the department's history. Over 200 detectives worked the investigation at its peak. Tips flooded in by the thousands. A composite sketch circulated across the city showing a young white male with dark curly hair and an ordinary, unremarkable face. The sketch matched thousands of men living across the 5 boroughs. Berkowitz struck again in June 1977, killing one victim and seriously wounding another outside a disco in Queens. Then again in late July, murdering Stacy Moskowitz and blinding her companion in a brutal attack in Brooklyn. The Moskowitz murder proved to be his last, but also the one that finally generated the lead investigators needed. Several witnesses reported seeing a man acting suspiciously near the scene. One witness remembered seeing a parking ticket being removed from a car near a fire hydrant. Investigators pulled parking tickets issued in the neighborhood that night. One ticket had been issued to a Ford Galaxy registered to a David Berkowitz of Yonkers, New York. Detectives drove to the Yonkers address. On August 10, 1977, they located the car outside the apartment building. Inside the unlocked vehicle, a detective observed a rifle on the back seat, along with a letter addressed to the Son of Sam. Task force describing plans for another attack. They secured the building and waited. David Berkowitz walked out of his apartment building that evening and approached his car with the casual, unhurried manner of someone with nothing to hide. An NYPD detective stepped forward with his weapon drawn. Berkowitz stopped. He smiled. According to the detective present, he looked at the officer and said simply, "Well, you got me." He seemed almost relieved. The investigation that had consumed New York City for over a year ended in a parking lot in Yonkers because of a single ticket issued to a car parked too close to a fire hydrant. Psychiatric evaluations found Berkowitz legally competent to stand trial. Many forensic psychiatrists concluded the demon dog story was likely fabricated to support an insanity defense. The organized and methodical nature of the crimes, the careful selection of weapons, and the calculated nature of the letters all suggested a level of planning inconsistent with someone genuinely unable to distinguish reality from delusion. Berkowitz eventually abandoned the insanity approach and entered guilty pleas to 6 counts of second-degree murder in 1978. The judge sentenced him to a cumulative term most commonly reported as 365 years in prison. He has been denied parole every single time. David Berkowitz terrorized the largest city in America for over a year. He killed 6 people. He wounded 7 more. He sent letters designed specifically to maximize public fear and did so with evident satisfaction. He watched an entire city change its behavior because of what he was doing, and he continued doing it anyway. The Son of Sam did not look like a monster from the outside. He looked like a quiet, unremarkable young man that nobody would look at twice on the street. Evil that announces itself can be avoided. Evil that looks like your neighbor, your co-worker, the man waiting beside you at the bus stop cannot. New York City eventually recovered. The fear faded. The streets filled again. But somewhere in a prison cell in New York State, David Berkowitz is still alive, still incarcerated. And the 6 people he murdered in parked cars on quiet residential streets across New York City are still gone. That is the part that never fades.